Welcome, everyone. We are sitting down with a brand new HB seller. We're super excited to have Jackie with us, the founder of Cecile's skincare line. And today we're going to dig in deep. We're going to learn more about her, her brand, and what took her from a concept all the way to having products online that you can purchase right now at HellaBlack. So welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for this time today. So we're going to jump right on in. What made you go from a concept to wanting to sell skincare? Like, what was that journey like, and what motivated you to step into the entrepreneurial game with this product?
Well, I would say that I kind of fell into it. I think a lot of people fall into things. My background's in corporate marketing. I have my MBA in entrepreneurship and marketing strategy. So I was working in New York and I needed a hobby. So I said, oh yeah, let me have a hobby. And I started making so much products, I actually had to sell them. My first time was making gifts for my family. So, I was laid off and Christmas was here. And I'm like, what am I going to give I have a big family. What am I going to give everyone? And a friend mentioned that maybe I should make something handmade. And so I looked around my kitchen and there were fresh herbs, ginger, limes, rosemary, thyme, all of these things. And I thought, let me try something. And so I grabbed a box of Morton's kosher salt and started putting things together. And I took the rind off of a tangerine. I peeled some thyme leaves and put them in a mini blender. And what came out was the fluffiest, most fragrant, like incredible concoction. And it was all natural. And that kind of like started me on that journey of creating. And so over time, I found myself I'd say about 2 years later, I started selling at local markets. And I found that people were really responding to the product. At the time, handmade was really in its infancy, and they liked the luxury aspect of it just because of the way I was putting the products together. And so slowly, little by little, I started creating the brand.
I love that. You made a bad situation or a difficult situation, and not even knowing it, transform that into your own brand, your own store. That has to be super rewarding because you didn't plan for this to happen. It just kind of fell together.
You know what? I didn't plan for it, but what's interesting is my parents always had businesses. And I had an entrepreneurial education, but in my mind, it wasn't really something that I saw myself doing, but I think the path was always leading up to that. And I'm just fortunate that it was something that I really enjoyed.
Oh, I love it. Well, let's talk about this journey, right? A little bit deeper. So you came up with, a product or two, you identified your mixtures. How did you, I go from, something in your kitchen to identifying the right product to put into it, and then making sure that it had shelf life and all of that good stuff? Like, what did that journey look like? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in this space, they think that they can create a product and not really taking into consideration shelf life and,
Mhm.
how do you scale up? What made you, or what were your steps to making sure you had a quality product that can be long standing on the shelf, but then also making sure that you had quality products in it, together?
Well, I would say that one of the main things about Cecile's is that we try not to use things that require preservatives. So for instance, if you look at our brightening facial grains, it's a powder form. So something like that is going to be shelf stable. We start with whole ground organic Azuki beans and clays. And so that is not really going to attract moisture. It's not going to attract kind of the problems that you have with, let's say, a lotion, right? And so anytime I'm formulating, those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about, especially my brand is also preservative free. So another thing is, how do you formulate for that? So for instance, I make sure that all of my products are oil-based. So any of my creams are completely, they're whipped butters, balms, that kind of thing that don't require preservatives, and that extends the shelf life. And the other thing is, making soaps. soaps never go bad. like like pretty much, I think it depending on, your formula,
Mhm.
you really are not going to, you can't go wrong with a soap. But, going into that formulation process, you really need to understand what the properties are of each individual input. So, our soaps start with either 40 to 50% olive oil, and then you're looking at butters, you're looking at coconut oil, and how much you put actually determines how that comes out in the end. And so you really need to understand all of your inputs to get that proper output that has the right shelf life. And then it's testing. I think for my number one bestseller is the charcoal soap. That took 2 years to test, iteration after iteration, testing on friends, on family members, giving pieces away to my coworkers. Like those were my original like test panel, you know. And really, like every time you make a bar of soap, you make it, it cures for 30 days, you send it out into the world, and then you get the feedback. And the biggest thing is really not taking that feedback personally, looking at it really from a customer point of view and making sure that you're fulfilling their needs while also keeping that luxury and, paying attention again to the formulation and the process.
So you tapped into something that I think that a lot of entrepreneurs really need to focus on, and that's the customer. And you talked about not getting your feelings hurt when you get negative feedback. However, taking that data and applying it and optimizing and making sure that you have a product that the marketplace actually wants. I was reading that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into the financial pit of producing something that nobody wants. So how did you make sure, let's talk about this panel of friends and family, but then what was the additional research that you did to make sure that you had a product that marketplace actually wanted?
Okay, so one of the components of my business is that I have a custom blend bar when we were in person, where I make things for people on the fly. So my blend bar would be, 5 or 6 different salts, sugars. You'd have 20 different mix-ins. You have 40 different essential oils and fragrance oils. And it was people coming to the booth and actually just choosing what they wanted. And I would make something for them on the fly. And doing that with all types of different people from all walks of life, you really get a sense for the things that people respond to, the textures, the scents. Quite a few of my products were actually developed that way and they were scaled up. But the biggest thing is the live testing. Like you have to test. And I'm not sure if it's necessarily a product that the market is demand, but I think it's more of creating a product that really works. And if you think about it, this world is endless. You are going to find your customers, but you just have to speak to them in the right way so that they're attracted to the product that you have.
So I think it's really cool that you literally took user generated feedback in real time to identify a solution, right? And so
Mhm.
there's consistencies that you saw that everyone kept selecting one type of salt versus one scent, and then
Exactly.
keeping track of that and saying, okay, we're going to make this a product line. So you get real time data to drive product development phase, which I think is really dope. I think that's something that everyone should kind of filter into their marketing and even their product development phase, so that they have real time feedback from customers, so that you're not wasting money on stuff that you think might work or may work. How
Yeah.
can you incorporate your customer in your journey? So now you have your product, you have your formula. Oh wait, let's take a step back. Please break down the name. Like, I love the name, but where did it come from? What was the inspiration behind it?
Okay, so the name Cecile means blind of self beauty, and it's the name of my aunt Cecile. So my aunt Cecile was a lover of all the beautiful things. Let me tell you, her house was beautiful, her food was banging, her kitchen table, her Thanksgiving spread, her 14-foot white Christmas tree, like she loved everything beautiful. And when I was starting this business, I didn't know if it was really transmitting that luxury, that I was going to be able to go after that particular customer that I wanted, and she was it. I knew that if she liked it, then I had arrived.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, and if she didn't like it, it was going to be a problem. And she was not shy about telling you. And so what I did is I was making all these products and I sent her a box and she loved it. And I decided to name the company after her because that is the standard I want to keep every single product. If it wouldn't reach that, like if she wouldn't use it, then don't even bother.
You know what? Everyone needs that in your lives. I don't care if it's a friend, a business partner. You need someone who can be objective and isn't afraid to hurt your
Absolutely.
feelings because fix our crown in private. Please don't fix my crown in public. Uh, so we need a Cecile in everybody's lives. So go
Yes.
business owners, entrepreneurs, if you want to step into this space, you need a Cecile in your so that you don't make your mistakes in public. Like let's keep that under wraps between loved ones, um, a trusted safe space. We are a community of business owners and family. And, you touched on a few things that is near and dear to the HellaBlack community, and that's family and community. And
Mhm.
you talk about your family, your parents being business owners. We grew up in a family of business owners ourselves on our side.
Mhm.
And we always try to break the myth that family and business should not work together because we're the opposite. We feel like family is the first place you should go.
Yeah.
Share with our community about how your family has inspired you, what your parents did to keep you motivated, and how you incorporate them in this journey that you're on.
Well, that's interesting. My family's not necessarily involved in my business, but I would definitely say growing up watching them as business owners has definitely informed the way I do business because I saw them open and I also saw them fail, right? So growing up, they had laundromat or pizzeria. My mom had a sneaker store back in the 80s. And, I could see growing up the way that staffing had an effect or how much time you actually were there in the business, how much time that you invested in the customers. And that really kind of stays in the back of my mind, especially when I'm hiring, especially when I'm bringing people on. What kind of person is this? Can I count on them? How much, and especially how much time you need to be really hands on with your business, especially in the beginning, and really train people and help them to see the vision for tomorrow. So also, yeah, I mean, like I said, my family is the best test panel. They're always the first in line for my free samples. And, right now I'm testing a hair butter and also some new CBD products that I'm developing, one of which is a cream for pain, but instead of being kind of like a balm or like a kind of a smelly balm, it's going to be something very luxurious, something that you put on like before you go to bed, kind of a sleep aid. So, definitely having those honest voices who love you and love your products, but will tell you if it doesn't meet the mark.
Yes, yes. Listen, if it wasn't for our mothers and aunties in our own family, I don't think HellaBlack would have been birthed. So my mother was the first one when we were raising funds, when we were coming up with ideas. She was the biggest cheerleader, and
Oh,
we
that's wonderful.
appreciate family. And I totally. And then you named your business after your aunt. So clearly,
Yeah.
family is a big component of your brand. So let's dig in on the social media marketing messaging component because you are selling luxury and you're
Hmm.
selling a lifestyle because you can go anywhere and buy soaps and balms and things like that. But why should someone choose you over someone else?
Mm. Ooh, you just asked me the golden question. I would say, why would someone choose Cecile's? I think it really truly boils down to the quality, right? So, and it's the care that it goes into it, especially when it's a product that someone is actually making by hand. So, for instance, I make all of my products still. And, I can tell you right now the temperature of the day that a batch of soap was made, because it really makes a difference. If it's humid, you got to do it a certain way. If it's a real hot, dry day, you got to tweak the formula. So these are all the little things that people might not see. And the other thing is that you see a lot of people coming out with beauty brands. What people don't realize is a lot of them are pre-purchase brands.
Oh,
They're
wow.
pre-purchase formulas. So you can go to, you can go to a shop and they will say, you want to start your product line. All you have to do is provide the branding, and they'll give you, a moisturizer, a cleanser, a whatever. So when it comes down to really getting something authentic, that's where you would go handmade. And the luxury is, the luxury is baked in. It makes a difference. Who are your suppliers? How long have you tested that? Do you understand the properties behind every single ingredient and how they behave? Each essential oil, they kind of have this synergistic effect, on one another, and layering them together will produce a certain effect, right? So you really need someone that understands that. And when you pre-purchase your products, you lose that. So that's one of the reasons I would say, or probably the main reason I would say, to purchase from us.
Love it. Well, we'll definitely make sure that we highlight that, because when stuff is made from the hands of a Black woman,
It's good.
it's good, right? Because we just know how to work it. We at HellaBlack, we've seen everything from the pitfalls of digital marketing, the pitfalls of dropping money without doing the research. If you could spare the next entrepreneur with 3 tips to get them from beginning to, or from an idea to starting, what would that be?
3 tips.
Like if you went back and said, I will never do that again, what was that?
Oh, baby, so many things. Okay, first, I would not spend a lot of money on graphic design. That's the first thing I would do, because especially too early in the process, graphic designers are super expensive. And I think I would spend more time researching and really forming my own ideas before I went to someone and said, hey, I have this idea, and, and having them come back to me with concepts. I think you need to really go into it knowing what you want, so the work can be a little bit more efficient and self-directed. The second thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I want to kind of tease out what you just said on that, because you said graphics design, because I think that's actually a really great piece of advice. And that's where you would engage with a creative director type of individual or expert to really
Yeah.
take an interview from you, or sitting down with you and then coming back with concepts. Because
Yes.
a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we have this vision and we can't see outside of this vision, and this is what we want to do, and I need this color, I need this vibe. But
Yeah.
taking those key elements and giving it to a creative director or someone in that capacity, and come back to you with a whole brand aesthetic, will definitely give you more options. So I love that as number 1. So let's go into number 2.
Yeah. So number 2, I would say, think of it as a business from day one. I think I went into this really as a hobby. I spent a lot of money trying things out, and I bought things that I didn't need, that I'm still not using, and I think that planning things out a little bit ahead of time, and examining what other companies are doing, and starting to think about your products as a product line, a whole product line before, is probably something that would have helped me, because I ended up making products that I really loved, but I always would have a client say, I would love this product, but do you have a facial oil instead of a balm? Or do you have this instead of that? And, like, it kind of took me a little bit off course, so that I ended up course correcting later on. So had I sat down and really thought about that ahead of time, I think I wouldn't have as many products, even though they're all great, but my line would be a little bit tighter.
Yeah, streamlining. So what I
Yeah.
heard you say is, whatever the product line is, and before you go and identify other SKUs or other components, take that one product line and try to flip it as many different ways within that same theme, so that when people ask, do you have another option? Like, I don't want creams, I want a gel, or if I don't want
Yep.
a bath bomb, I prefer a scrub. You know, thinking through that entire product line before moving on, I think is great advice. And third, what would be your third tip?
Mm, I would say, wow, what would be the third tip? You put me on the spot here. Let me think about that for a second. So I would say build your email list. That is probably the most important thing right now, especially Facebook has become pay to play. Instagram bought Facebook. So now IG is becoming pay to play. And we all have super decreased traffic. And you have to realize that you do not own this audience. Instagram owns this audience. The only audience that you actually own, that you can actually communicate with at will, is your email list. So that's the number one thing I would tell people. And communicate with them. And even if it's something so simple as an image, 4 or 5 sentences, but keep up with them, touch them here and again, update them in what you're doing so that you stay top of mind. Is probably the area where I didn't do as much, just because I was so much in person, right? The world was different. But like I said, especially now with the state of internet marketing and the pandemic, that email list is where you're going to make your money.
I love that. And for those who don't know how to build their email list, I'm going to give you a hack that I help all my clients with. And it's basically, if you go to your inbox and download all of your contacts, everyone that you've ever interacted with, that's your first email list. And
What? I'm about to do that.
do that right now. It's free. Every
Wow.
platform. So you can download your contacts, and those are individuals that you save as a contact. But in Gmail specifically, they have an option to download most frequently emailed. And that's anyone that you've ever emailed. And so you can download it. And what's great, they already download it into a CSV file. All you have to do is download it, clean up the list, and then upload it to whatever email marketing platform that you use. And that's your first list. So you don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money. Those people clearly know who you are because they've emailed you in some capacity. It might be your mom, it might be your last vendor. It doesn't matter. They can unsubscribe if they don't want to be a part of it. But that's your first step to building your email list. It's a hack that a lot of people don't know about. So that's your tip.
You gave me a word today.
That's it. I'm here about making sure from a marketing perspective, we are
Yeah.
always staying competitive, and these marketing hacks are expensive, all these
Hmm.
platforms, and we understand at HellaBlack that, coming out, step one is having the motivation and the faith to go out and do it. But two, getting that step two is all the stuff that we're trying to help as a community to support. And so that's why we're here. Before we wrap up, I would love to highlight your product line and what we can expect from you in the coming months. So please, the floor is yours. Share what we should be shopping for, what's new, and how can we find you on social media and your website and all of that good stuff.
Okay, well, this year, Cecile's is going to be reemerging as a specialty maker of soaps. And that is going to include the reintroduction of my coconut milk soap, my chamomile tea soap, really honey oatmeal soap, all the different types of luxury soaps that I made back in the day. I'm also developing a hair butter and some more CBD products, including CBD bath bombs and some balms that will be coming out in time for the holidays. And right now, I would say the best sellers are the detoxifying charcoal soap, the brightening facial grains, and then my essential elixir. So these three products really work together to give your skin glowing, like all the glowing vibes, and to really brighten, to reduce hyperpigmentation, and to really even out your skin tone so that you feel good and you look good and you look healthy and vibrant.
I love that. Now let's talk about your website. Let's name that. How can folks follow you? And making sure that we get to HellaBlack.com and put in Cecile's in the search bar so that we can shop and get all of that authentic handmade soap and skincare for our skin. So share how we can follow you and your website address.
Of course, you can follow me on Instagram at Cecile's Bath and Body. You can also see me on my website, cecilesbathandbody.com. And I'm across social platforms. My DMs are open. And if you have any questions about skincare or products, feel free to reach out. And I also specialize in custom. So if there's something that you see that that you might want to tweak, reach out to me. And it's possible. If you want it, we can make it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jackie, for your time today. I truly appreciate you. I love the fact that your products are custom. I think that we are in this cookie cutter, try to get to marketplace fast kind of space right now. So you are a breath of fresh air to say, hold up, pump your brakes, pay for quality, pay for luxury. And thank you, Aunt Cecile, for inspiring you. So we want to make sure that we celebrate all the people that motivate us to become entrepreneurs. And with that, I want to thank you so much for your time today. And let's get to shopping, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.